In the 57th year of the galactic calendar, before the silence fell, there was a planet spoken of only in fragments of forbidden scripture, a myth among the colonies, a ghost among stars. They called it Origin. The scholars called it E9, the ninth world lost from the cradle sector. But to those who still dreamed of oceans, forests, and blue skies, it had another name. A name no one dared to speak aloud. Earth. And when, after 10,000 years of forgetting, that name was spoken again, despair echoed through the Empire. Captain Elena Ward stared out the viewport of the Alethea, her reflection warped by the endless stretch of nebulae. The ship drifted in orbit above a dead world, Chiron 3, once a thriving imperial mining hub. Now it was nothing but ash, its cities fused into glass by something that did not burn with fire. "Captain, we've isolated the transmission," said Lieutenant Marcus Hale, voice low as if the void itself might overhear. "Origin frequency confirmed. It's broadcasting under pre-fall encryption." Elena turned slowly. "You're certain?" "As certain as we can be without breaking the encryption." "But, ma'am," Hale hesitated, "the key sequence, it's human." The bridge fell silent. Even the hum of the consoles seemed to fade. For over 10 millennia, humanity had been scattered across 1,000 worlds, genetically and culturally altered by Empire-standard evolution programs. The idea of a single original humanity was an artifact of myth, a metaphor for unity. But the signal was real. And it was calling from beneath the surface of Chiron 3. They descended into the ruins that day, armored and armed. The city was a cathedral of shadows, towers half collapsed, metal twisted into strange, organic curves as if the planet itself had screamed. Their scanners picked up radiation, faint electromagnetic distortion, and beneath it all, a rhythmic pulse, a sequence repeating every 42 seconds. Like a heartbeat, Hale whispered. They reached the epicenter, an underground vault of impossible architecture. Every wall was carved with circular runes that shimmered faintly when touched, not with light, but memory. Elena knelt beside a fractured console. The symbols rearranged under her glove, forming words: archive, Terra. Her heart stopped. The vault wasn't transmitting to them. It was transmitting through them. "Captain," Hale called. His voice echoed strangely through the chamber. I think it's talking." The walls vibrated, and a sound filled the air, not a voice, but something deeper. It resonated in the bones, in the blood. The runes on the walls flared, forming a single glyph that burned into their neural visors. Earth. Elena gasped as her mind filled with visions, oceans roaring under starlight, cities rising like prayers, and the final scream of a blue world as it fell into silence. Then came the words, not heard but felt. "Who calls the name of the lost?" Every member of the team froze. The question reverberated through their minds, ancient and endless. Hale spoke, trembling. "We are of the Empire. We seek the truth of origin." The silence that followed was unbearable. Then, softly, "Truth costs what it remembers." The chamber began to shake. Lights burst from the walls in spirals of white flame, consuming the vault's architecture. Elena's suit sensors overloaded. Her last coherent thought before the blast hit was that something wasn't breaking, something was waking up. Hours later, she awoke aboard the Alethea. The ship was adrift, power flickered. The crew lay unconscious, some bleeding from the nose, some whispering nonsense in their sleep. Hale was the first to stir. "Captain, we heard it, didn't we?" Elena nodded weakly. The word Earth still burned behind her eyes. Before she could reply, the calm system flickered to life with static. Across the bridge, the holographic seal of the Imperial Inquisition appeared, the black sigil of the Emperor's shadow fleet. "Captain Ward of the Alethea. You have engaged with a prohibited signal. Cease all activity and prepare for immediate containment." Her stomach turned cold. The Empire knew. "Lock coordinates," she ordered quietly. "We're not surrendering." "Where to?" Hale asked. "To where it came from," she said. "If the Empire fears the truth, then we'll find out what it is." The Alethea vanished into the dark, engines screaming as the stars bent around them. Behind them, the Empire listened. And across 1,000 worlds, ancient machines began to stir relics that had not moved since the dawn of time, now whispering the same forbidden word. Earth. The Alethea cut through the black void like a wounded animal, its hull scorched from the vault's explosion. The stars ahead stretched into thin silver lines as the ship dove into the deep lanes, a region so far beyond charted space it didn't appear on Imperial maps. Captain Elena Ward stood alone in the observation deck, watching light bend and twist. Her reflection was pale, eyes sunken. The word Earth still echoed in her skull like a haunting melody she couldn't unhear. Behind her, Lieutenant Marcus Hale entered quietly. His uniform was scorched, his movements shaky. Engine output stabilizing. But we can't run forever, Captain. The Inquisition's tracking our energy signature. They won't stop, she murmured. They never do. The Alethea had become a ghost ship. Crew whispered of dreams, vivid, impossible visions of oceans, laughter, and skies too blue to exist. Some woke screaming, others cried without knowing why. Hale called it radiation poisoning. Elena knew better. The vault had changed them. It had marked them. A few hours later, an alarm screamed through the bridge. Contact, the tactical officer yelled. Multiple signatures dropping from hyperspace, Imperial dreadnoughts. They've locked on. Elena's blood froze. On the holoscreen, the black sigil of the Inquisition fleet burned like an eclipse. 10 massive vessels encircled them, each one capable of leveling continents. A cold voice crackled through the comms. This is Inquisitor Adrian Sorov, voice of the Emperor. Surrender the vessel Alethea and all data pertaining to the prohibited transmission. Failure to comply will be met with absolute erasure. Hale looked at her. Orders, Captain? Elena stared at the dark void outside. Somewhere beyond those warships lay the signal's origin, the coordinates encrypted in the vault before the blast. The place where it all began. Set a course, she said quietly. Execute the jump. Captain. Do it. The ship lunged forward as space tore open. A ripple of light devoured them and the Alethea vanished, leaving the Inquisition's fleet chasing shadows. When they emerged, the stars looked wrong. There was no galactic glow, no familiar constellations. Just an endless, hollow expanse and a single star burning dim red at the center. Navigation can't get a fix, Hale muttered. According to our systems, we're outside the galactic plane. But that's impossible, Elena finished. The proximity sensors flickered. Something vast drifted ahead, a sphere of obsidian metal, silent and cold. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a ship. It was a wound in space itself. The signal pulsed again, faint but clear, drawing them closer. They approached the object cautiously. As they neared, its surface shimmered, covered in markings identical to the runes in the vault. Scan it, Elena ordered. Trying, said Hale, frowning at his console. I can't. Its reading is negative mass. It's not even here in a conventional sense. The comm hissed with static. Then a voice, deep, resonant, and ancient, filled the bridge. Return what was taken. Speak the name, and remember. Every light in the ship went out. The crew screamed as gravity twisted. Elena was thrown to the floor, vision blurring. For a second, she was somewhere else. She saw Earth, the real Earth, oceans alive, mountains glimmering beneath a golden sun. Then cities burning. Towers collapsing. A sky torn open by something bright and endless. And a voice whispering through it all. They called me home, but I was never theirs to keep. When she came to, the ship's systems flickered back. Hale was shaking her awake. Captain, you have to see this. Outside, the sphere had opened. Inside was a vast chasm, an interior hollowed like the skull of a planet, filled with glowing structures orbiting a frozen core. And floating above that core was something human. A ship. Old. Scarred. Rusted. Letters barely visible on its side, USS Ascendant. Hale gasped. That's
That's pre-Exodus design. Earth-built. 10,000 years old, maybe more. Dock us, Elena said.
They boarded the Ascendant in silence.
Its corridors were dark, lined with frost.
Every console was dead, every viewport fogged by centuries of isolation. In the command deck, they found the captain's remains, bones still strapped into a chair, uniform preserved by vacuum seals.
A recording blinked weakly beside the skeleton. "Play it," Elena ordered.
The hollow projection flickered to life, an ancient man with weary eyes and the insignia of the United Earth Fleet.
"This is Captain Daniel Ross, commanding the USS Ascendant. To whoever finds this, Earth has fallen.
The entity we awakened was not God, not alien, but something older.
It was our world itself, alive, aware, and betrayed.
We mined its heart, burned its oceans, buried our dead in its veins. And when we fled the ashes, it followed. Every colony, every star we touched, it watched.
Waiting. The empire you built upon its memory? It's still part of it. We all are.
When you speak its name, you summon the grief of a planet that remembers everything you took." The message ended in static. The crew stood frozen.
No one spoke. Finally, Hale whispered, "The Empire's been living in its corpse." Elena stared at the recording.
"No," she said quietly.
"Inside its dream."
Back aboard the Alethea, the data from the Ascendant uploaded automatically, spreading through the ship's comm systems like wildfire. The forbidden name, the coordinates, the truth transmitted across the Empire's network faster than they could stop it.
Within hours, worlds trembled. Communications collapsed.
Some heard voices in their skies, others saw the stars themselves rearrange.
The Inquisition broadcasted emergency orders to silence, to purge, to erase.
But it was too late. Every sentient mind that heard the name Earth began to remember things they were never meant to know, lives that weren't theirs, oceans they'd never touched.
Hale looked at Elena, eyes wide with dread. "What have we done?" Elena didn't answer.
She looked out the viewport, and for a brief moment, before the madness reached them, she thought she saw Earth in the distance.
Whole. Blue. Beautiful. Waiting. There were no borders anymore. No fleets. No order.
Only the sound, a low, resonant hum rising from every corner of the galaxy. They called it the Echo, though that word was far too small for what it was. It began the moment the name Earth reached the Imperial core. One whispered syllable cascading through 10,000 relay stations, millions of receivers, and billions of living minds. Every creature that heard it remembered. And memory, it turned out, was the most destructive force in the universe. From the bridge of the Alethea, Captain Elena Ward watched entire star systems go dark across the holomap. The Imperial core had fallen silent first, communications replaced by a single transmission repeating endlessly.
"We are awake."
The Empire's greatest worlds, Luthen Prime, Corregos, the twin moons of Vyre, all flickered and vanished in static. Even the Inquisition dreadnoughts had ceased pursuit. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stumbled onto the bridge, pale and trembling. "Half the crew's gone mad," he whispered. "They're hearing voices. Some are walking out the airlocks." Elena's voice was barely audible.
"The memories? They think they're home. They say they can see oceans, forests, families that don't exist."
Through the viewport, the stars rippled faintly, as though the universe itself was breathing.
Hours passed in disjointed silence.
The few surviving crew members clung to reality while the ship drifted aimlessly through the dead lanes. Data feeds showed impossible readings, gravity wells forming and dissolving, time looping back seconds at a time. Elena sat alone in the command chair, her mind heavy with visions she couldn't escape. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it, Earth, alive, vast, and vengeful.
Not a planet, but a consciousness. Not destroyed, but dreaming.
A soft chime broke the silence.
Hale's voice over the intercom.
"Captain, you need to come to the observation deck." When she arrived, the stars were gone. In their place stretched an ocean endless, black, and glimmering with reflections of cities that weren't there.
The ship hovered above the surface, though no one could tell if it was space or sea. It smelled like rain. Hale stood at the viewport, his eyes unfocused. "We're inside it," he said softly. "Inside the memory." She stepped beside him. Beneath them, through the shifting reflection, she saw fragments, streets, laughter, the hum of old machines. People walking. Children playing. All of them human. All of them long dead. "They're us," Elena whispered. "No," said a voice behind them. They turned. A figure stood in the doorway, Inquisitor Adrian Sorov, armor fractured, face pale with exhaustion. His ship must have followed through before the jump closed. "How did you?" Hale began, but Sorov raised his hand. "Save your questions. The Empire is gone. Every communication channel has collapsed. The throne world dissolved into light 3 hours ago." His voice trembled. "You've doomed us all." Elena stepped forward. "You mean we woke us all?" He stared at her with something between fury and despair. "You don't understand. The Empire wasn't just built after Earth, it was built to contain it. The founders knew. They buried the name, erased the history, sealed the memory behind laws and blood. Also the dream wouldn't awaken." He pointed out the viewport. "Now it's awake." The deck shuddered violently. The ocean below began to boil, waves of light crashing upward into the void. The sound was everywhere, millions of voices, crying, laughing, screaming, the echo of a world remembering its birth and death all at once. Elena staggered to the controls. "Can we still move?" Hale shook his head. "Navigation's unresponsive. We're being pulled." Sorov drew his sidearm, though against what, he didn't know. "If the ship's compromised, we destroy it. We can't let the data spread." Elena looked at him, eyes blazing. "There's no Empire left to save." The hull screamed as the Alethea descended, not falling, but sinking. The sky around them warped, transforming into clouds of shimmering memory. They fell through fragments of history, skyscrapers forming and crumbling, waves swallowing continents, the faces of billions rising like ghosts. And through it all, the same voice whispered, "You forgot me." Elena pressed a hand against the glass. "We didn't mean to. You left me to die. We thought we had no choice. You built an empire upon my bones." Elena's voice broke. "Then take it back." For a moment, everything was silent. Then the world inverted. Light consumed the ship, not heat, not destruction, but understanding. Every mind aboard the Alethea saw the truth in perfect clarity. Humanity had not left Earth. It had become it. The Empire, the colonies, the endless expansion, all of it was Earth's consciousness fractured across the stars, dreaming itself as many to forget the pain of being one. Each world a neuron. Each life a thought. And now, the dream had reached the point of self-recognition. The awakening wasn't death. It was integration. When the light faded, the Alethea floated in calm silence. The sea of stars had returned, but subtly changed. Each one pulsed gently, in rhythm with her heartbeat. Elena looked around. The crew were gone. No bodies. No screams. Just absence. Only Hale remained, standing at the viewport, eyes distant. "Where are they?" she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Home." She approached him slowly. "You see it too, don't you?" He nodded. "It's beautiful." Outside, a vast blue sphere shimmered in the void, not a planet, but the memory of one. Oceans rolled across the stars, clouds drifting between galaxies. It was Earth, yet more than Earth, a consciousness unfolding, filling the cosmos with light and sorrow. Elena's throat tightened. "What happens now?" Hale turned to her. "We remember." He stepped forward and dissolved into light, his form scattering like dust into the luminous ocean beyond the glass. Elena stood alone. For the first time, she felt no fear. Only an unbearable, exquisite grief. The ship's systems flickered and died.
In the stillness, she whispered the forbidden word one last time. Earth. The universe answered, a single note of impossible harmony, the sound of everything that ever lived remembering itself.
And then there was no Aletheia. No empire. No stars. Only silence. And a heartbeat. Centuries later, or perhaps seconds, in whatever remained of time, a probe drifted through the void, ancient and forgotten. Its hull bore the faded emblem of a human hand encircling a blue sphere. It caught a fragment of a signal, faint but steady.
A voice, calm and familiar, whispered through static.
This is Earth. I remember you. And somewhere, in that endless expanse, the stars pulsed once as if an answer.